welcome to BBC News. Emergency teams in 6 US states are continuing to search for survivors following one of the largest outbreaks of tornadoes in US history. More than 70 people died in Kentucky, including dozens in a candle factory that was torn apart by the winds, and the death toll is expected to rise above 100. The state's governor said it would be a miracle if anyone else was found alive. There have been reports of deaths too in Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee and Illinois, where 6 Amazon workers have been confirmed dead after the roof of their warehouse collapsed. Our North America correspondent Nomir Iqbal reports from Kentucky.
The scale of the destruction has been extraordinary. In the dead of night, dark funnel clouds roared across 6 states in 4 hours at huge speeds. They tore through a path of more than 200 miles in Kentucky, hitting this small town of Mayfield hard. Workers on Christmas shifts at this candle factory were buried by several tornadoes that came hurtling in the dark. It's thought up to 110 people were inside. 40 have made it out.
This has been the most devastating tornado event in our state's history. And for those that have seen it, what it's done here in Graves County and elsewhere, it is indescribable.
A state of emergency has been declared in Kentucky as a huge rescue operation gets underway. But authorities are facing huge challenges. The police station in Mayfield has been destroyed and firefighters have lost equipment. There's no power. Nearly 200 troops from the National Guard are helping, and more than half of the population in this town are without electricity and water on one of the coldest months of the year.
This used to be a petrol station. And the only reason we know that is because of a solitary petrol pump that's still standing in the middle of the forecourt. All the others have blown over. And the kiosk where you go in to pay for your petrol has completely disappeared. It's lost underneath all this rubble here.
In the southern state of Arkansas, a nursing home was badly damaged, killing at least 1 person, injuring several and trapping more than a dozen others inside. In the Midwest state of Illinois, an Amazon warehouse with up to 100 people inside was ripped apart after the roof partially collapsed. At least 6 people are dead. President Biden has called it an unimaginable tragedy.
And we still don't know how many lives are lost or the full extent of the damage. But I want to emphasize what I told all the governors. The federal government will do everything it can possibly do to help.
Forecasters say the storm has now weakened, but Americans are being urged to get ready for more severe weather as the storms continue to sweep across the country. Nomir Iqbal, BBC News, Kentucky.
Well, joining me now is Jack Sillin. He's a meteorological analyst at Cornell University. Thanks very much for joining us. Why have these tornadoes been so destructive? Is it the sheer number or the ferocity or both?
Well, thanks for having me. There are a couple of things that are going on here. First and foremost, I think, is just the amount of energy that these storms had to tap into. We have several ingredients that need to come together for tornadoes, and all of them were present in quantities, that exceed what we would normally see on a severe weather day. The other thing that went into accentuating the impacts is the fact that they struck at night, and that's when a lot of people are either asleep or not really tuned into news information. And so that makes the impact a lot more significant compared to if the tornadoes had struck earlier in the evening when people might be a bit more tuned into weather information.
And what's the underlying reason for seeing these tornadoes? And is it at all linked with climate change?
Yeah, so the reason that we saw tornadoes, it has to do, on this particular day anyway, has to do with the storm that moved up into the Great Lakes. It brought all this warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico up into the Midwest and the Mid-South. And then that air was forced to rise, the wind shear, we had winds changing speed and direction, and that's why you get the spinning in the atmosphere. So the cause for these particular tornadoes was very natural. These types of storms happen all the time. That said, the background environment is sort of shifting in favor of these types of events. You're getting a warmer Gulf of Mexico due to climate change that enables more moisture. As we talked about earlier, the fact that we had an unusually large amount of moisture is one reason these storms were able to be so intense. So much like your favorite soccer player would score a goal because of, they kicked the ball in the right direction this time, that's a specific event, but it's their training in the background that makes those events more or less likely. And so Mother Nature, unfortunately, the tornadoes have been hitting the gym a little bit in terms of the climate change, making them a bit more likely.
And are they occurring in areas, parts of the US that they wouldn't normally, or not, not normally to the same degree?
So this area of the U.S. is no stranger to tornadoes, but to see them in mid-December is unusual. We would normally expect severe weather to be confined to the immediate Gulf Coast at this time of year. So the fact that the moisture was able to make it this far north into parts of Kentucky, Illinois, that is definitely unusual. And one of the other fingerprints of climate change potentially that scientists will be looking into in the coming weeks and months.